Welcome back to Annie Recapped. Today we will cover the series, So I'm a Spider, So What? Hope you enjoy the video. During a completely normal day at a high school in Japan, a huge explosion suddenly destroys everything. One of the girls who was there at the time wakes up in a dark cave and finds she is no longer a high school girl, but a small spider called Komoko. She quickly realizes she has been reincarnated into another world. At first, she refuses to accept she has become a spider, but concludes she has to learn to live with it. In an effort to escape the spider nest, she is confronted with a gigantic spider, her own mother. However, when she sees the mother is eating her children, Komoko runs away from her at full speed. While thinking of ways she can get more information about her surroundings, she hears a voice telling her she has 100 skill points she can use to gain the appraisal skill. Komoko is confused at first, but quickly gets fired up and takes that skill, expecting it to be as overpowered as it is in isekai light novels. She turns out to be completely wrong, since the skill is level 1 and only gives her obvious and useless information about the objects around her. Exclaiming she was a gamer in her past life, she gets fired up again and decides to try earning more experience points. While wondering what she can eat, she realizes she is surrounded with monsters far stronger than her. While she is panicking, she realizes she can produce webbing like a regular spider and makes a home out of it. Since she didn't go out much while she was a human, she is fine with being alone. Feeling like she might collapse from hunger after working so hard, she desperately eats a spider corpse, since she saw the other spiders doing the same before. Even though the meat is disgusting, she still forces herself to eat it, swearing she will survive. She suddenly hears a voice again that tells her eating one of her spider siblings gave her the title Kin Eater. With the title, she acquires the skills Taboo and Heretic Magic, but can't figure out how to use them. At that moment, she feels something finally got caught in her web. It turns out to be a blue frog, but once she approaches it, it starts spitting poison at her. Komoko gets burned by some of it, which hurts but also grants her the acid resistance skill. Getting angry, she decides to eat the frog and she starts fighting it. Dodging the frog's attacks, she manages to jump on it and kill it with her poisonous fangs. While she celebrates her victory, somewhere else, a luxurious banquet is being held for students who have been accepted to the Royal Academy. Among them are Schlaine, the country's blue-haired prince, and Carnatia, the red-haired girl, who is a duke's daughter. Soon a blonde elf girl called Philomos and Schlaine's turquoise-haired younger sister called Sue join them. Philomos introduces Schlaine and Carnatia to a white-haired girl called Yuri and a boy called Hugo. Schlaine and Carnatia reveal themselves to actually be Shunsuke and Kaneda, high school students from Japan who have been reincarnated to this world. In the same way, Yuri and Hugo are actually Yuga and Natsume. Strangely, Kaneda, who was originally a boy, was reborn as a girl, while Mirai, another one of the students, was reborn as Fi, an earth dragon cub. Philomos, whose real identity is their homeroom teacher called Oka, has so far gathered 11 students who have been reincarnated. In the cave, Komoko forces herself to eat the frog's disgusting meat in order to survive and raises her acid resistance to level 2. She remembers how the girls in her class used to bully her back when she was a human. The next day, at the Royal Academy, Shunsuke talks to Natsume. They are both princes, but Natsume is first in line to inherit the throne, while Shunsuke is only fourth. When Shunsuke says he wants to become strong like his older brother Julius, who is the hero of this world, Natsume tells him he shares his dream of becoming strong. After Natsume leaves, Mirai opens up to Shunsuke and tells him she thinks her getting reincarnated as a creature is punishment for bullying someone called Wakaba when she was human. When Oka appears, Mirai asks if she ever found Wakaba, but Oka tells her she still doesn't know where she is. In the cave, Komoko continues catching frogs and eating them, eventually raising her Poison Fang skill to level 2. Suddenly, her skin cracks and she emerges as good as new, without any acid burns from before. The disembodied voice informs her that she has leveled up to small, lesser Terratech level 2 and all her skills have improved. Feeling something was caught in her web again, she is surprised to see it's a human this time. In order to free himself, the human sets Komoko's web on fire and escapes, burning her home to the ground. While he is escaping, he drops a large egg on the ground. Realizing she needs to make a better shelter, Komoko does her best and builds a much bigger and sturdier home out of her web. Getting hungry again, she decides to treat herself to the egg the human left behind. However, it turns out to be incredibly hard to crack. When her appraisal skill raises to level 2, she uses it on the egg and finds out it's an earth dragon egg. At that moment, a whole party of humans arrives and burns her web to the ground again. Running away from the blazing inferno, Komoko leaves manages to escape, but is frustrated by how weak she is. She remembers how sad and pathetic she was while she was a human and decides to become strong in this life so she can be proud of herself. In order to get more combat experience, she spends the next few days fighting against frogs and lizards, raising her level to 7 in the end. One day, reaching a deep part of the caves, she is attacked by a swarm of bees and desperately runs away. Having managed to escape, she falls asleep, but is soon woken up by strange noises. Suddenly, a powerful snake attacks her, and she decides to test the results of her training against it. Dodging the snake's attacks, she manages to tie its mouth shut with webbing. The snake hits her with her powerful tail, but Kumoko doesn't give up and leaps at it, biting its neck desperately until it dies. Having beaten the snake, Kumoko levels up all the way to level 10. The voice gives her a choice to evolve into a small Terratect or a lesser Terratect. Deciding she wants to stay small, she chooses to become a small Terratect. As soon as she decides, she loses consciousness and wakes up later. Waking up, she doesn't notice anything different about her. However, her level is level 1 again and her stamina is drained. After eating the snake, she realizes she now has to eat a lot more than before to recover her stamina. In search of more prey, she continues exploring the cave. With her newly acquired skill points, she chooses the skill Thread Control, which makes her shoot webs faster, and the skill Detection, which enables her to detect enemies. However, she realizes using Detection gives her an intense headache, so she decides to ignore it. Beating even more monsters, she advances to level 2. Having leveled up her appraisal skill, she can finally see her own stats and realizes her speed is incredibly high, while her other stats are low. Just when she was getting confident, she is suddenly ambushed by a group of knights. Seeing they're all higher than level 20, so she decides to run away as fast as she can. While she is running, she gets distracted by monsters and falls down a cliff. At the Royal Academy, the students gather in the woods for combat training. Yuka acts strangely, saying she can sometimes hear the voice of God, but needs to level up more so she can hear it more often. The students take magic wands and practice water magic by hitting targets. Shunsu, Kaneda, and Natsume all turn out to be very skilled, while Yuka tries the hardest she can to level up, but she can't do it. Suddenly, a strong gust of wind starts blowing and knocks out the student's teacher. A huge earth dragon appears, and Natsume sees this as an opportunity to show off his strength. However, his fire spells don't work against the dragon, and it easily knocks Natsume out. Thinking of his brother Julius, Shunsu gets the courage to fight and takes out his sword. Kaneda, Yuka, and Sue join him, and the four of them run towards the dragon. Natsume gets up and joins the fight, firing spells recklessly and making the battlefield turns completely chaotic. Suddenly, Mireille appears and bites into the dragon's neck, wounding and distracting it. Shunsu then jumps into the air and cuts the dragon's head off. He ends up taking all the credit, and everyone is impressed by him, which makes Natsume angry and jealous. Mari starts acting strangely, and Shunsu realizes she's gained the Kin Eater title. It turns out the large earth dragon was one of Mireille's parents. In the cave, Kumoko gets attacked by bees in the air and lands on the bottom of the abyss. She sees 3 snakes that start fighting the bees. While she is trying to run away, a huge level 37 earth dragon called Araba appears. It easily defeats both the bees and the snakes. Paralyzed with fear, Kumoko is prepared to die, but Araba turns around and leaves her alone. Activating her stealth skill, she decides to hide the best she can, but is disappointed with herself for running away again. Exploring the caves, she uses her appraise skill to find out she is in the Great Elro Labyrinth's lower floors, which are full of powerful monsters. Sneaking around, she still can't find any prey and her stamina is almost depleted. Desperately looking for something to eat, she encounters small blue dinosaurs who are significantly weaker than most monsters around and decides to attack them. Capturing them in her webs, she easily poisons and eats them, acquiring the title Poison Master, which grants her the skills Poison Synthesis and Poison Magic. With the Poison Synthesis skill, she can create globs of poison, but she still doesn't know how to use any kind of magic. Suddenly, she sees a powerful ape-like monster approaching and manages to avoid it. Shortly, a whole horde of them starts running down the hallway. After they leave, a small monkey appears and starts attacking Kumoko, turning out to be very fast. Dodging its punches, she still manages to restrain and kill it, making it scream loudly and die. By killing it, she raised her level to level 4. Finding a safe place, she takes a nap, but is soon woken up by a huge number of monkeys throwing rocks at her. She realizes the monkey she killed earlier attracted the others with its scream, and now they want revenge. Kumoko does her best to keep the monkeys far away from her and uses her new Poison Synthesis skill to throw poison at them. However, one of them manages to reach her and rip her leg off. Desperately fighting, she kills the monkey and levels up, recovering completely. Sticking her web to the cave's walls, she pulls on it and causes an avalanche that buries most of the monkeys. For killing so many enemies, she immediately rises to level 7. Suddenly, 3 powerful ape-like monsters arrive and attack her too. One of them jumps at her, but before it can harm her, she pours a huge amount of poison into its mouth, killing it and rising to level 8. She beats another one of them in the same way, but the third one ambushes her and seriously wounds her. Komoko doesn't give up and manages to poison the last monster too. Luckily, before she dies, her level rises to 9 and she recovers completely. After the fight, she is exhausted but proud of how far she has come. Having finished off the rest of the small monkeys, her level raises to 10 and she gets the opportunity to evolve again, but doesn't do it immediately. Finding a path leading upwards, she hopes it will take her to a safer area. However, she emerges in the labyrinth's middle part, a volcanic landscape full of magma. Desperately running away from seahorse monsters, she ends up back on the labyrinth's bottom. Having settled down, Komoko decides to evolve into a small poison pterodactyl, which changes her appearance and raises all her stats dramatically. Even though she doesn't understand it completely, she gets a skill called Pride that increases how much experience she gains. After she takes it, her taboo skill rises to level 4. She gets the title Ruler of Pride and gains skills called Abyss, Magic, and Haze. Even though it all sounds ominous to her, she ignores it when she sees her stats and skill levels also increased. In order to prepare for challenging the middle floors, she starts training. At the Royal Academy, Mirai has evolved and gotten bigger because she fought the Earth Dragon. Since that incident, Shunsuke has become respected by his whole class, while Natsu remains incredibly jealous of him. Yuka has become an even bigger religious fanatic and wants to recruit everyone to a group called the Followers of the Word of God. She is also looking for people who have the taboo skill because the followers want to kill them. Mari gets concerned since she got that skill by killing her parent. In the labyrinth, Komoko raises her fire resistance and health recovery skills. Suddenly, she gets attacked by an incredibly powerful earth dragon called Kagna. Running away, she returns to the volcanic middle of the labyrinth. A seahorse immediately starts throwing fireballs at her, but she is now so fast she can dodge them easily. When the seahorse drains its magic points, it climbs out of the magma lake. Since it moves very slowly on land, Komoko manages to bite it and kill it. While she is eating the seahorse, 2 monstrous catfishes emerge and surround Komoko. When one of them opens its mouth to swallow her, she shoots poison into it and it dies. When the second one sees this, it runs away. Eating the catfish, Komoko enjoys her first delicious prey. Sometime else, Julius and his party enter the Great Elro Labyrinth, killing powerful monsters on the way. At the middle floor, Komoko wanders around until a powerful eel surprises her. Since Komoko gained the Foresight skill, she can now see a little into the future and predict her enemy's movements. However, she still has a rough time dodging the eel's fast attacks. Using another skill she took called Energy Conferment, she strengthens her webs so they don't catch on fire and uses them to swing around and continue dodging. After a while, the eel finally spends all its magic and climbs onto the solid ground to attack. While it's charging at her, Komoko pours her poison into its mouth and the eel collapses. However, it quickly uses a skill to get its health back. Surprised, Komoko wraps the eel's head in her webbing and starts spitting poison at the eel until it dies for good. Exhausted, Komoko levels up to level 10 and gets her strength back. Once again, she gets an option to evolve, but first she makes a shelter out of the eel. Staying inside her shelter, she decides to evolve into Zo-Eel, a stealthy, combat-oriented spider monster. Having evolved, Komoko gets a sturdy carapace and sights for arms together with a huge increase in stats. Cooking the eel of the magma, she enjoys its delicious meat. After a meal, she decides to acquire a skill called Perseverance, which enables her to survive with 1 health point as long as she has magic points available. However, she also gets 2 levels of the taboo skill with it. She notices she has a new skill called Heresy Nullification and remembers the headaches she got from using the detection skill were a heresy effect. She decides to try it out, and upon enabling the detection skill, her head doesn't hurt anymore. Using detection, she finds herself seeing the world as programming code and that experience levels up some other skills. Suddenly, she hears her own voice inside of her head. It turns out she also gained a skill called Parallel Minds, which enables her to have 2 different consciousnesses which can do different tasks at the same time. She decides to make her second consciousness a body brain, which will move her body in a fight while she thinks about strategies. Sometime else, Julius and his comrades relaxed in the camp they set up before. 3 greater pterodactyls ambush them together with a powerful spider called the Nightmare's Vestige, which is Julius' target. Julius manages to kill all 3 of the greater pterodactyls, but the Nightmare easily disperses his magic, moving with incredible speed. Using a spell called Light Field, Julius wounds the monster, but almost kills him too. Suddenly, the Nightmare gets distracted and scared of something, so one of Julius' allies manages to restrain it. Then, Julius fires a holy light beam at it and finally kills it. Somewhere else, the demon lord, who is a black-haired girl, stands looking over her castle's balcony. She made the nightmare's vestige get paralyzed in fear, thinking it got too full of itself. Back in the labyrinth, Komoko gains the title Ruler of Perseverance and unlocks the Curse Evil Eye skill. In order to try it out, she finds an evolved frog and shoots it with the skill, which slowly drains its health until it dies. After the battle, she maxes up her appraisal skill and hears strange static for a moment. At the Royal Academy, Oka tells Shunsuke and the others that 11 of their classmates asked her to take them into custody at an elf village. 4 of the remaining students have been found dead, but 3 others are alive even though Oka won't say where they are. Oka also tells them not to increase their skills too much because it's dangerous, but won't tell them why. Later, the students split into 2 groups and go into the mountains for survival training. Shunsuke ends up in a team with Natsume, Oka, 2 other students, and a teacher. Shunsuke's team sets up a camp and everyone splits up to explore the forest. While he's picking medicinal herbs, Shunsuke gets attacked by Natsume. Because he thinks this world exists so he can rule over it, Natsume wants to get rid of Shunsuke and considers him a nuisance. Checking his skills, Shunsuke sees Natsume has leveled up a lot and acquired lots of powerful skills. Suddenly, Natsume attacks and Shunsuke can just barely block his sword. Natsume reveals that he told his goons to kill the other students and then set it up so it turns out a powerful monster killed them. After that, Natsume will slay the monster and take the credit for avenging his fellow classmates. At that moment, Oka appears and saves Shunsuke with her wind magic. She says she has already defeated Natsume's goons and then beats Natsume too. Touching his head, she somehow lowers his stats and takes away all of his skills, leaving him in despair. In the labyrinth, Komoko maxes out her vision enchantment skill and gains the telescopic vision skill, which enables her to look at objects in the distance. She maxes out her detection skill too, and thinks how nice it would be if she got skill called Wisdom. Suddenly, she hears the voice saying that someone called Senior Administrator D has received her request. Shortly after, Komoko gets a skill called Wisdom and the title Ruler of Wisdom. Komoko is confused and scared, starting to think someone is watching her and controlling everything, while she is just like a character in an actual video game. Somewhere else, a girl approaches Natsume and tells him she is someone who also reincarnated and wants to help him get revenge on Oka. Returning to the students' past in their original world, we see Shunsuke, Canada, and a 3rd boy called Kyuya relaxing in the school grounds. Soon they end up playing soccer with some of their other classmates and they all get along together, even Shunsuke and Natsume. After the game, Shunsuke buys some drinks for Canada and the other boy and bumps into a gloomy black-haired girl called Shuko, who looks at him strangely. Nearby, Mirai bullies Wakaba together with some other girls, but Shunsuke interrupts them and helps Wakaba. Back in the other world, Oka tells everyone Kyuya is well, but she can't tell them where he is. In the labyrinth, Komoko decides to ignore the Administrator D and decides to continue living like everything was normal. Because she wants to use magic, she uses her wisdom skill to learn about how magic works. She finds out she needs to first visualize magic power as a fluid and then transcribe the runes needed to cast the spell. For her first spell, she tries using abyss magic, but it turns out the runes for it are incredibly hard to use and the spell goes out of control. At that moment, her parallel mind's skill levels up, creating a 3rd consciousness. Komoko decides to make a magic brain and orders it to figure out how to use abyss magic. Suddenly, the ground starts shaking and a deep hole forms nearby. Out of it, a wounded fire dragon emerges and starts attacking Komoko. Using all 3 of her brains, Komoko dodges the dragon's attacks and starts attacking it with poison magic and her evil eye, but none of them are effective. While that all is happening, Komoko's parallel mind's skill levels up once again and she gets another brain, but she doesn't have time to put it to use. While fighting against Komoko, the dragon intentionally destroys almost all the rocks, leaving mostly magma. Now Komoko is on the last remaining chunk of rock, faced with the dragon's fire breath. At the academy, Oka reveals to the students that she found out that Wakaba has died. Sometime later, Julius returns from his latest quest and Shunsuke is happy to see him. Since the demons are on the move, his next mission will be going to the Empire to fight them. While they're talking, he reveals the Earth Dragon Cub, who is now Mirai, was brought 15 years ago as an egg from a Terratech nest. Julius tells Shunsuke his goal is making a peaceful world where everyone can be happy together. In the labyrinth, it turns out Komoko getting hit by the dragon's flame was actually an illusion she made while she is actually hiding on the ceiling. Creating a poison bomb, she throws it at the dragon and then attacks him with her rod attack skill, losing her arm in the process. However, the dragon remains alive while Komoko's health points are almost gone. Using the newest brain she awakened as his 2nd magic brain, she combines its efforts with her original magic brain to cast Abyss Magic, Hellgate, successfully. The spell makes an ominous gate appear, which starts sucking all of the magma inside of it and damages the dragon severely. The dragon charges at her and Komoko traps it inside her web before killing it with her scythes. She rises to level 19 instantly and gets the Dragon Slayer title. Somewhere else, a mysterious armored man notices a dragon has died and decides to see what's going on. The man teleports to Komoko and tries talking to her in a strange language, but Komoko can't understand him. Suddenly, a smartphone appears and the man picks it up. After talking to someone in the same strange language, he teleports somewhere else, leaving the smartphone behind. The smartphone starts talking to Komoko in Japanese, and the woman talking introduces herself as DD, can read Kumoko's mind, and has been watching her from afar. She says she is the most evil god in the world and is watching her just for fun. However, she isn't the one who has created this world and says she is just an outsider, before the smartphone disappears completely. At her castle, the Demon King talks to her army commanders, cheerfully announcing that they will go to war against the humans and that the hero Julius will have to die. Sometime later, Shunsuk suddenly gets promoted to hero and gains a hero's skills. Since only one person in the world can have the title hero, Shunsuk realizes Julius has died and cries out in despair. In the labyrinth, Komoko decides not to worry about D and decides to focus on escaping the middle floors of the labyrinth. While thinking about spending her skill points on spatial magic, she sees a simple path towards the upper floors. At the Royal Academy, Shunsuk, his brothers, and the king mourn over Julius' death. Even though anyone in the world could have inherited the title of hero, Shunsuk got it by coincidence. At that moment, a knight arrives reporting that half of their fortresses have fallen, while the others are just barely pushing back the demons. The only place where the demon army was completely defeated is Fort Dazaro, where Ronan, the most powerful of all human mages, is in charge. The king decides to keep the fact that Julius died a secret for now, not wanting to disturb his people. He tells Shunsuk he has to leave the academy and start preparing for the time when he will have to protect humanity as the hero. At Fort Dazaro, Ronan, a gray-haired mage, tells one of his soldiers the story of the nightmare of the labyrinth. 15 years in the past, a party of adventurers, including Ronan, were exploring the Great Elra Labyrinth to kill a powerful spider monster. Seeing a sturdy shelter made of spider webs, they burned it away, which made a powerful Zoel spider appear. When the spider uses appraisal to inspect them, Ronan is impressed, having never seen a spider with such high stats and so many skills. At that moment, the spider activates a skill, and almost all of the knights suddenly lose consciousness. While Ronan is preparing to teleport everyone to safety, the party's leader summons various familiars to fight the spider. However, the spider easily dodges or blocks all the attacks and defeats the familiars one by one. Before he manages to teleport himself and the party's leader away, the spider takes Ronan's arm off with a black magic spear. Finally, the two of them manage to return to their base, but Ronan feels that the rest of their party is dead. Back in the present, Ronan thinks the nightmare of the labyrinth might be involved in the ongoing demon attacks too, since a Queen Terratech was summoned at one of the humans' forts. In the labyrinth, Komoko is angry because her house was burnt down again. We realize the Komoko we are following is 15 years in the past, and she was actually the nightmare of the labyrinth Ronan fought. She also marked Ronan, and now knows how to get out of the labyrinth. Having leveled up to level 20, Komoko evolves to Eid Sane, a spider monster with extremely high combat and stealth capability. Having evolved, she also maxes out her taboo skill, and suddenly gets a flood of new information. At the Royal Academy a month after Julius' death, Shunsuk practices his magic skills and runs into Mireille. Wanting to help him in the future, Mireille makes a pact with him, so he can summon her when he's in trouble. After forming the pact, she glows with a bright light and reverts back into an egg, which is preparing to evolve. In the labyrinth, Komoko has received a huge amount of information about the origin of this world, something almost nobody. She knows that, if nothing changes, the end of the world will come, so she decides to save the world. In order to get stronger, she decides to defeat Araba the Earth Dragon. At the Royal Academy, Hirance, a blonde man who is the only survivor from Julia's party, finally returns to the royal castle. He apologizes to Shunsuk for letting Julius die and hands him a phoenix's feather. He tells Shunsuk Julius gave it to him and its magical properties are the only reason he didn't die. After Julius defeated the enemy commander and asked the demon army to surrender, a mysterious girl in white calmly approached his party. Hirance remembers her making a hand gesture and nothing else after she did that. When he woke up, he found everyone except him has disappeared. Later, he realized the girl turned them all to dust with a rod attack. The only thing that was left of Julius was his Terrasek silk scarf. Shunsuk knows he will never be a hero as great as Julius, but he promises he will inherit his dream of achieving peace on Earth. In the labyrinth, Komoko defeats lots of weaker monsters to get ready for her fight against Araba. She realizes that using her annihilating evil eye damages her, so she decides to use it only as a last resort. With time, she leveled up shadow magic and acquired black magic, which is very destructive. She spends the rest of her skill points on a skill called Sloth, thinking it will help against Araba. Ready for her encounter with the dragon, she waits for him to arrive at his base. When he arrives, she attacks him with black magic spears while climbing up the cave, but Araba just keeps running after her and attacking, unfazed by her attacks. Komoko tries attacking him with poison and trapping him in her web, but Araba is too fast and agile to get hit by her. When he leaps at her, she finally captures him in a web she prepared previously. She attacks him with all the spells she knows, but he suddenly breaks through the web. It turns out he acquired new skills specifically to counter her attacks, together with the strongest flame breath skill. When Komoko reaches the ceiling and has nowhere else to go, she starts descending. However, Araba catches up with her and pierces her with a rock spear. In order to escape, she uses up 2 of her eyes to cast Annihilating Evil Eye and destroy 2 of Araba's fingers. She cuts off her hind part to free herself from the rock spike and starts dropping down to the ground. Stopping herself from falling, she jumps above Araba and does her best to escape upwards. However, Araba quickly bites onto her, capturing her. Desperately sacrificing her arms to attack him with rot magic, she frees herself. Almost ready to give up, Komoko remembers everything she has been through and gets her determination back. Araba leaps at her once again, but suddenly drops down to the ground. It turns out the sloth skill Komoko picked up makes her opponent drain their health, magic, and stamina points faster, which drained Araba's stamina to the point of exhaustion. Health and magic can be automatically regenerated, but stamina can't. When Komoko prepares to finish him off, Araba gets back on his legs. To Komoko's surprise, self-destructs, leaving Komoko angry at him for giving up so fast, even though she's been fighting for her life ever since she was reincarnated. Defeating Araba raises Komoko's level to 29. At the Demon King's castle, the Demon King remembers fighting an earth dragon in the past. Back in the labyrinth, following the path the humans took, Komoko finally leaves the Great Elro Labyrinth. Did you enjoy up till now? Yes. Good, because we will continue the story. This is part 2. Having beaten Araba the Earth Dragon, Komoko emerges from the Great Elro Labyrinth, but immediately finds herself attacked by archers. Using her overwhelming strength, she completely destroys the fort and runs away as fast as possible. Having escaped, she walks around enjoying her newfound freedom. So she can walk around without humans attacking her, she decides to make it her priority to evolve into a Rakshan, a spider with a human torso. While she is traveling, she senses that Mother Spider is angry and wants her to return to the labyrinth. The Mother Spider can usually force her children to listen to her, but Komoko has the heresy nullification skill, so she can't be controlled and refuses to return to the labyrinth. 15 years in the future, at the royal palace, the king and his sons meet up with Potamas, the chief of the elves, and Oka, who is actually his daughter. They have gathered because the humans and the demons are at war. Aside from Julius, who has been killed in the war, Shunsuk has 2 more brothers, the serious blue-haired Celis and the kind purple-haired Leston. While Celis wants to send Shunsuk to front lines as soon as possible, Leston thinks he is too young to go to war, even if he is the hero. Since the current demon lord and her followers are exceptionally strong, the king and Potamas agree he should carefully think about what they will do about her. Somewhere else, Natsume kidnaps Kaneda and Sue. 15 years in the past, Komoko is attacked by monster spiders sent by her mother. Having prepared a trap, Komoko captures the spiders in her webbing and shoots black magic bullets at them, but the strongest among them survive. Running away from them, Komoko once again manages to prepare a huge web and trap her enemies. She teleports the strongest spider, a white arched Heratect, all the way to the magma lake in the Great Elro Labyrinth, and after a long struggle, finally manages to push him into the lava and eat him. Still hungry, she eats the 3 remaining spiders in the same way. Afterward, she realizes there must be some kind of connection between her and the mother spider. Calling her parallel minds together, Komoko makes a gateway to the mother spider's mind and sends the 3 of them to attack it. Having entered the mother's mind, the 3 Komokos start devouring it. Exploring the area, Komoko notices a group of bandits is attacking a coach. Realizing she can get some experience points, she quickly defeats them all using her sharp-sighted and powerful magic. Seeing a couple inside the coach, she inspects their baby and notices it is actually a vampire. In addition, she is also a reincarnation called Sophia, whose past name was Shuko. Sometime later, Komoko comes across a gathering of elves who are planning to kidnap the baby. She decides to protect the baby and kills the elves quickly, but decides not to get involved any further. 15 years in the future, Sue invites Shunsu to the throne room. When he arrives without saying a word, Su suddenly kills the king, punching a hole clean through his forehead. Immediately after, she screams, accusing Shunsuk of having killed him. Moments later, Sullus and his knights arrive together with Natsu and apprehend Shunsuk. Since Sullus wants to inherit the throne and Natsu wants to get his revenge on Shunsuk and Oka, they join forces. Sullus heard the king wanted to make Shunsuk king soon, so he won't have to go to war. Since Sullus was supposed to be next in line, he wanted to stop the king and Shunsuk. Natsu also brainwashed Su, which explains her actions. While Natsu gloats over his victory, Shunsuk gets angry and punches him. Suddenly, a silver-haired girl called Sophia arrives and interrupts the fight. It turns out she is the person who helped Natsu get his strength back. When Natsu prepares to finish Shunsuk off, Oka runs in and helps him escape. Hyris and Anna, Shunsuk's blonde-haired elf attendant, join them and the four of them run away. Soon, all hell breaks loose when Sullus and Natsu's forces start fighting against Leston's forces. When Shunsuk and the others ambushed by more rebel soldiers, Leston himself appears with backup and saves them. Having finally escaped, Oka reveals that the followers of the Word are cooperating with Natsu and have declared him the new hero. Suddenly, the rebel army surrounds them, together with the brainwashed Kaneda. Fighting Kaneda, Shunsuk manages to wake her mind up, but her body is still out of control. Because she doesn't want to hurt Shunsuk, Kaneda pierces herself with her own sword. Shocked, Shunsuk quickly runs over to her and manages to heal her. Suddenly, Sophia appears and reveals she has killed Pugimas. Looking at her stats, Shunsuk realizes she is a reincarnation, just like him. Since she has the ability to nullify magic, Sophia quickly defeats Oka and grabs her by the neck. At the last moment, Mireille appears and breaks them up, showing off her evolved form, a huge white dragon. Shunsuk and the others quickly climb on her back and she takes them away to safety. 15 years earlier, Komoko's 3 parallel minds continue gnawing at the mother spider's mind but start wondering why she isn't reacting. Suddenly, the mother makes a huge hole leading outside of the labyrinth and traps the 3 Komokos inside her mind, preventing them to contact the main Komoko. While she's walking around absent-mindedly, Komoko feels the earth shake and the mother spider arrives. Looking at her stats, Komoko sees she's 5 times stronger than Araba. Panicking, Komoko starts running as fast as she can, but the mother keeps chasing her and attacking her. Just before she gets hit by one of the mother's spells, Komoko manages to teleport herself to one of her old shelters at the Elro Labyrinth. However, she is immediately surrounded by 5 arch-Terateks and a horde of small ones. The 5 monsters start tearing her apart mercilessly, but she manages to get away with 1 health point. Running towards the volcanic middle of the labyrinth, a creepy 6-armed puppet appears and stands in her way. It starts attacking her using incredibly fast sword techniques, while the arch-Terateks are still advancing from behind. Getting away from the puppet, Komoko launches a massive barrage of black magic bullets at the spiders while she uses a skill called Jinx Evil Eye to keep absorbing her enemies' magic points. When this strategy proves ineffective, Komoko decides to look for the weakest one among the spiders and kill it, hoping to get enough experience to level up and get her health back. All of a sudden, one of her legs gets caught by one of the puppet's strings. The puppet drags one of the arch-Terateks on top of Komoko, intending to squish her to death. Left with no other choice, Komoko sacrifices an eye to cast Annihilating Evil Eye and kill the spider on top of her. Having killed it, Komoko levels up and gets her strength back. Jumping on another one of the arch-Terateks, she bites into it and teleports to the middle of the labyrinth just before the puppet can reach her. Having leveled up enough, Komoko evolves into a spider form called Zana Haroa. 15 years in the future, having hidden somewhere, Oda tells Shunsuk and the others that Natsume intends to attack the elf village soon. In order to reach the village and stop Natsume, Shunsuk and the others will have to pass through the world's most dangerous labyrinth, the Great Elro Labyrinth. Entrusting Shunsuk with stopping Natsume, Leston decides to go back to the royal palace and continue defending it. 15 years earlier, Komoko wakes up. Having evolved, she obtains a skill called Immortality and gets excited because she won't be able to die anymore. A smartphone appears and Administrator D contacts Komoko to congratulate her on becoming the only Zana Haroa spider in the world. As a reward, she decides to explain why Komoko reincarnated in this world. She explains that the previous hero and demon lord were so powerful that they tried to escape this world. However, the system that governs this world doesn't work in the other world, so the spell went out of control and caused an explosion that killed an entire class of Japanese students. Administrator D reveals she is the person who proposed the system in the first place, and she had to correct the hero and demon lord's mistakes. She collected the souls of all the students and gave them skills so they can survive in this world. In addition, she gave them all a special skill that made them reincarnate into the body that best suited their soul's frequency. She praises Komoko for getting powerful much faster than the others, since everyone else are just infants. She also admits she is actually one of the reincarnated people, but won't reveal who exactly. Her presence made the hero and the demon lord's magic affect the classroom in the first place, and she even thinks they were sent to kill her back then. Hoping Komoko will continue to entertain her, Administrator D's voice disappears. 15 years later, Shunsuk and the others hide Mirai somewhere and arrive at a village. Herons introduces the others to a mustached labyrinth guide called Basgath. Later, Oka and Kaneda go visit Mirai and later bring back a blonde girl with wings. That girl turns out to be Mirai, who gained a skill called humanification that enabled her to change her appearance to that of a human. The next day, Basgath takes everyone to an underwater passage towards the Great Elra Labyrinth. There's the possibility a water dragon could appear, but they decide to take the passage in order to avoid their enemies, the Imperial Guards. While they're swimming, the huge water dragon really does appear, but Mirai distracts it using her flame breath and enables the others to enter the labyrinth. 15 years in the past, Komoko is at a beach enjoying herself. Making a boat out of webbing, she decides to go fishing. A huge water dragon takes her bait, but she easily kills it. Remembering she has unfinished business in the labyrinth, she teleports there and continues fighting the puppet spider. Teleporting seawater into the labyrinth, she manages to drown it. Having defeated the puppet, she decides to continue fishing. Suddenly, her magic brain contacts her, warning her that a threat even bigger than the spider mother is approaching her. In the distance, Komoko sees an incredibly high-level creature called an Origin Pterodactyl with the name Ariel. Looking at her stats, she sees it's actually the demon lord herself and starts panicking. With one-hand movement, Ariel makes Komoko explode into body parts. 15 years in the future, Shunsuk and the others make their way through the labyrinth, fighting its monsters with ease. Following Basgath's advice, they all take a break. Shunsuk later wakes up from a nightmare about a silver-haired woman with blue wings on her head who keeps saying he is leveling up and then suddenly says she is in pain. Hearing he had a bad dream, Basgath gets worried because that is a sign that a powerful spider monster called the Nightmare of the Labyrinth might appear. People believe the nightmare is dead, but Basgath doesn't think so. It is said that the nightmare won't attack you if you don't attack it first, and that it even sometimes heals the wounded. Waking everyone else up, Basgath continues guiding them through the labyrinth. After a while, a powerful purple earth dragon attacks them. Shunsuk and the others fight it, but it's strong against both physical and magic attacks. Mirai runs towards the dragon and punches it, knocking it down. It turns out that both her skin and her punches are as tough as a dragon's, even in her human form. While she is distracting the enemy dragon, the others weaken it with magic. In the end, Shunsuk finishes it off with a holy light beam. Having defeated the dragon, he levels up to level 29 and everyone obtains the title Dragon Slayer. Suddenly, Spider's Basgath recognizes as Nightmare's vestiges appear all around them, curiously observing them. Before they leave, they ominously say the world is going to end soon and that he can't do anything about it. Finding the hole in the ceiling that the Spider Mother made 15 years ago, Mirai transforms into a dragon and takes the rest of the group to the surface. 15 years in the past, Komoko's head is floating in the sea, but she is still alive since she has the immortality skill and automatic health regeneration. While waiting for the rest of her body to regenerate, she is casually fending off sea monsters. She is afraid of Ariel returning and attacking her with Abyss magic, which destroys both body and soul. Meanwhile, Ariel enters the Spider Queen's mind and encounters Komoko's parallel mind. When Komoko's body brain attaches herself to Ariel's mind, Ariel realizes she has to completely kill Komoko to get rid of it. Sometime later, Komoko levels up and grows her body back completely. Coming across the same coach she saved earlier, she sees that there are still assassins after it, so she decides to follow it. The coach arrives at a mansion in the country of Sariella, and Sophia's father, a black-haired man called John, tells his blue-haired attendant to investigate the spider monster that saved them. 15 years in the future, Shunsuk and the others part ways with Basgath, giving him the valuable parts of the Earth Dragon they all killed together. Riding on Mirai's back, Oka tells the others they will have to go to a country called Sariella next. People there worship a goddess with white wings and believe that if you erase your skills, you are actually offering them to her and you will be saved. Since the followers of the Word of God believe that raising their skill levels enables them to hear God's voice, the two religions hate each other. 15 years in the past, Komoko watches a group of assassins break into Sophia's house and kills them from afar with her evil eye skill. Since she already saved Sophia once, she doesn't want to see her die so soon. Letting one of the assassins go, she uses a skill called clairvoyance to track him. When he returns to his allies, she sees they're all elves. It also turns out their leader is Potamus. He considers both Dustin, the leader of the followers of the Word, and Ariel, the demon lord, his enemies and wants to eliminate them. John, who turns out to be the lord of Karen County, realizes that the spider monster known as the Nightmare of the Labyrinth has saved his family from bandits once again, but he still feels uneasy about it. It turns out that the goddess religion thinks spiders are sacred since the goddess herself was said to have had a spider servant called a divine beast. Finding out about the religion, Komoko remembers that Ariel had the title Ancient Divine Beast. While Komoko was relaxing in a tree, a woman approaches her and asks her to heal her son. Appraising them, Komoko realizes they're both poor and sick. Because she feels sorry for them, she heals them and they immediately feel better. Getting an apple as a reward, Komoko is satisfied. Soon, a huge line of people shows up looking for Komoko to help them, convinced she is the divine beast. Having nothing better to do, she starts helping them and becomes famous in town. 15 years in the future, Shunsuk and the others find the teleportation circle that serves as the entrance to the elf village. As soon as they arrive, the elven guard surrounds them, saying humans aren't allowed in the village. Suddenly, Potamus appears and gives Shunsuk and the others permission to enter the village. Shunsuk and the others are surprised he is alive after all, but he won't reveal how. The next day, Oka everyone to the settlement where she took the other reincarnated students she discovered. The entire class gets together for the first time in a long while, but Oka doesn't join them for some reason. The students living in the village reveal that they have actually been kidnapped and are basically held prisoner by Oka. They don't trust her or the elves at all. 15 years in the future, a neighboring kingdom called Oats asks John to hand over the divine beast to them, claiming they have the right to her power. Since Komoko destroyed one of their forts when she emerged from the labyrinth, they want to punish her. Checking how the mother spider is doing, Komoko notices her stats have dropped dramatically thanks to her parallel minds attacking her. She immediately teleports herself to the labyrinth but gets caught in a web and the mother cuts her head off. While the mother is trying to eat her, Komoko's parallel mind returns to her, giving her a huge power boost. Having eaten a big part of the mother's mind, they absorbed an equally large amount of the mother's power. Rising all the way to level 24, Komoko fires an incredibly powerful barrage of black magic bullets, weakening the mother. Firing a beam out of her mouth, Komoko completely destroys her. After the battle, the parallel minds tell Komoko her body and brain is gone because attached to Ariel. At that moment, Komoko realizes the demon lord is rapidly approaching her and runs away back to Karen County, where her believers are. However, soon diplomats from the Kingdom of Oats appear and tell her they want to take her away. Hearing this, Komoko takes some of her offerings with her and simply walks away from them, leaving their mustache leader angry. Meanwhile, John is concerned Komoko might become the trigger for a war between Sariella and the Oats Kingdom. The diplomats from Oats are also staying in his mansion. Komoko is watching all this from a distance, wanting to leave but not wanting to abandon Sophia at the risk of being assassinated. At that moment, the same armored man Komoko met in the labyrinth before teleports to her, clarifying he won't harm her. He introduces himself as an administrator called Gully Distides. Komoko decides to call him Gully because she can't remember his whole name. Gully wants Komoko to stop interacting with the humans and continue to live her life quietly in secret. Since she has become too powerful, her every move could create chaos in this world. However, Komoko refuses, telling Gully she wants to do everything she can to prevent the destruction of the world. Accepting her answer, Gully says he will do what he thinks is necessary and leaves. As soon as he leaves, Komoko is attacked by someone throwing knives at her, but she deflects them and kills the attackers with her evil eye. Noticing among them is one of the diplomats from Oats, she gets annoyed. Locating their mustached leader with clairvoyance, she kills him remotely with her evil eye and goes to sleep. At the Karen mansion, John finds the mustached diplomat dead, realizing the divine beast has killed him. A moment later, John gets the report that the Kingdom of Oats has declared war on Sariella. It turns out they managed to gather a huge army forming an alliance with the Rengzan Empire and the Holy Kingdom of Elias. Meanwhile, Komoko notices what's going on and realizes she might be at fault for causing the war. Because she feels responsible, she decides to help Sariella. 15 years in the future, Oka is lying in her bed alone. When she was reincarnated, she was born with a unique skill called Student Roster, which enables her to see a list of reincarnated students together with information about their past, present, and future. Seeing that most of her students aren't going to live longer than 20 years, she fell into despair. While she was still a baby, she talked to Potamus using her telepathy skill. She told him everything about her past life and her student roster skill, and he agreed to help her protect her students. The two of them kidnapped and bought off the students as slaves to take them to the safety of the elf village and change their fates. Because her student roster skill doesn't allow her to share any of the information with the students, she couldn't explain to them why she kidnapped them. Since she was unable to explain her actions, the students at the village all grew to hate her. The next day, together with Kanata, Murray, Hirance, and Anna, Shunsuk visits the powerful barrier protecting the elf village. They are joined by two other reincarnated students, a blue-haired girl called Asaka and a blonde-haired boy called Kunihiko. Convinced that the barrier is impenetrable, Kanata thinks Natsume could have a spy inside the village who could help him get in, which is why she proposes that the teleportation circle into the village should be disabled. However, the elves are arrogant and won't listen to her, saying humans aren't a threat to them. On the way back to their rooms, Shunsuk and the others meet Oka. She reveals to Hirance and Anna that Shunsuk and the others are reincarnations and that they're especially powerful because of that. She tells them about an old elf story that says that the gods will take away the lives and powers of people called from another world. The elves call those gods administrators and see them as enemies. They don't want any of the reincarnated students killed because their powers will then return to the gods. Oka also reveals that the administrators have been using Natsume the entire time. She figured that out because Sophia was with Natsume and she is one of the reincarnations that has allied herself with the administrators. When she reveals Sophia is actually Shuko, everyone is surprised. Hearing all this, Hirance and Anna agree to protect the students. Aside from Sophia and Natsume, Shunsuk expects to be fighting Yuka because she is part of the followers of the word. There is also a possibility that two more students called Kusama and Kyuya are actually their enemy because they don't know where they are. Sometime later, everyone prepares for battle, while the elves laugh at them thinking their barrier is invincible. Suddenly, Shunsuk and the others hear a commotion. It turns out a ninja called Kusama somehow entered the elf village through the teleportation circle. He is also a reincarnation, and he calmly admits he is their enemy. Immediately, everyone attacks him, but he uses his ninja skills to evade them. A moment before he teleports outside of the village again, he throws his sword in the air. The sword explodes and destroys the tree where the teleportation circle was. Outside, the same white-haired girl who killed Julius casts a spell and makes the entire barrier start glowing with a purple light. When Natsume proclaims the barrier has fallen, Yuka, Sophia, and their forces advance and start fighting against the elves. During the battle, Natsume finds Oka and attacks her with a magic sword, dispersing the wind magic she is casting to defend herself. Natsume reveals that he has been controlling people using a skill called Lust, and he also acquired a skill called Greed, which allows him to power up by killing his enemies. Left alone against Natsume and his allies, Oka does her best to defend herself, but her attacks don't affect Natsume. However, she manages to shoot an arrow at his feet and cast a barrier spell through it, trapping him. Unable to breathe because of the barrier, Natsume starts choking, but Sophia arrives and blows Oka away, saving him. Lying on the floor, Oka wonders if she was a good teacher and waits for death, but at the last moment, Shunsuk arrives and blocks Natsume's sword. 15 years earlier, Komoko finds herself in the middle of the war between the Oats Alliance and Sariella. She fights against the Oats soldiers and turns out so strong she instantly and brutally defeats most of the army. In the Great Elra Labyrinth, Komoko's body brain has been eating at Ariel's mind and soul, making her personality start to resemble Komoko's. Ghoulie teleports to her and immediately notices her soul has been slowly combining with Komoko's. Because of this, Ariel doesn't want to kill Komoko anymore, but still wants to punish her. Ghoulie decides to help her and teleport her to where Komoko is. Teleporting to Komoko, Ariel raises a barrier that prevents her from casting advanced magic. She attacks Komoko and Komoko desperately dodges, unable to do anything. Realizing that she can still use basic magic, Komoko starts blasting Ariel with simple light magic and damaging her, but Ariel's health regenerates so fast, Komoko's attacks are insignificant. Ariel also can't run out of magic points because she has the title Ruler of Gluttony, which enables her to eat literally anything and get her magic points back. Suddenly, a small blue-haired boy appears and challenges the two of them. Komoko appraises him and finds out that he is the current hero, and that his title gives him the power to slay the Demon Lord, which is making Ariel nervous. Suddenly, a huge fireball appears in the sky and distracts the hero. In that moment, Ariel uses her Abyss magic on Komoko. 15 years in the future, Natsume clashes with Shunsuk. Checking his stats, Murray sees Natsume's stats aren't very high, but he has a lot of skills. It turns out the Demon Lord's army is following the Empire's army into the Elf Village, but Potamus is already aware of that. He doesn't care what happens to the reincarnated students and sends his whole army to fight. Meanwhile, Shunsuk and Natsume fight fiercely, and Kanata notices Shunsuk is much stronger than Natsume. On top of that, Shunsuk has the Dragon Power skill from defeating the dragon in the labyrinth, so all magic is weaker against him. Natsume is frustrated when neither his swordsmanship nor his magic works on Shunsuke, and he soon gets tired, unable to continue fighting. Natsume says this world was supposed to belong to him, but Shunsuke tells him the world belongs to everyone. At that moment, Sophia appears, together with her attendant, the vampire Merazofis. Kumikiko and Asaka immediately recognize Merazofis as one of the commanders in the demon army, and it turns out Sophia is a commander too. Natsume realizes he has been used, but before he can attack Sophia in his rages, Merazofis knocks him out. Shunsuke starts fighting Sophia, but her magic nullification is even stronger than Shunsuke's, and she has no trouble blocking his attacks. Seeing how strong Sophia is, Shunsuke's group attacks her together, but every one of their attacks is powerless against her. Shunsuke doesn't want to give up, but Sophia just laughs at him. Her master told her not to kill any of the reincarnated students, and she is actually just stalling them, while the rest of the demon army is wiping out the elves. Shunsuke continues attacking, but Sophia blocks all his attacks once again. Suddenly, a horned man appears and introduces himself as Kyuya, one of Shunsuke's former classmates and friends. It turns out he is also a commander in the demon army. He reveals that the elves are a threat to the world and that they most probably deceived Shunsuke. When some elves appear and try to take Shunsuke with them so he can kill the demon lord, Kyuya and Sophia attack them, saying they won't let Shunsuke leave. The elves summon a group of fighting robots called Gloria units, and they fire at Kyuya and Sophia. 15 years in the past, Komoko is completely destroyed by Ariel's abyss magic. However, she hatches from an egg in the labyrinth, having previously used the mother spider's egg-laying skill and transplanted one of her parallel minds into one of the eggs she laid. In this way, she can resurrect even when her soul is destroyed. Suddenly, she hears Administrator D telling her she can finally evolve, and she evolves into a Rakshin, turning into a human-looking girl with white hair. 15 years in the future, Kyuya and Sophia manage to easily deflect the Gloria unit's fire. Summoning a sea of blood, Sophia starts killing the elves and makes the Gloria unit sink. Shunsuke tries stopping her, but he is interrupted by Kyuya, who kicks him away. The horde of elves attacks, but Kyuya kills them in droves using his magical swords. Shunsuke locks swords with him, but turns out to be weak. Anna suddenly runs between them to protect Shunsuke, but gets seriously wounded by Kyuya. Doing his best to heal Anna, Shunsuke levels up, also leveling up his Taboo skill to level 10. With that, Taboo activates and Shunsuke learns the truth about this world. With so much information flowing into him, he writhes on the floor in pain. Having regained consciousness, Natsume attacks Sophia, but she easily stops him and almost kills him in her anger. However, someone appears and stops her. The white-haired girl who killed Julius in the past appears, and all the reincarnations recognize her as Wakaba, their classmate who everyone thought was dead since Oka said so. 15 years in the past, Komoko evolves into a Rakshin, a spider with a human female's torso sticking out. At that moment, all the other eggs she laid also hatch, and she gives them something to eat before leaving. Using her clairvoyant skill, she sees Karen County on fire and elves entering the mansion where Sophia is. In the mansion, Jack and his wife don't want to abandon Karen County. John sends his attendant, who turns out to be Merazofis, to take Sophia away and protect her. As soon as Merazofis leaves, he hears the elves invading the mansion and killing Sophia's parents. They catch up with him and shoot him full of arrows, but he doesn't quit. So if he doesn't die, Sophia bites Merazofis, turning him into a vampire. Regenerating, Merazofis easily kills the elves in a fit of rage. Suddenly, Potamus himself shows up and realizes Sophia could become a threat to him in the future and wants to kill her. However, Merazofis swears to protect her and won't let Potamus near her. At that moment, Komoko arrives and punches Potamus, blowing him away. Using her newest Evil Eye ability called Warping Evil Eye, she distorts space and tears the other elves apart. Potamus gets up, which surprises her because her punch is incredibly powerful. She is even more surprised when she can't read his stats at all. When she tries activating a teleportation spell, Potamus somehow disables her skills and magic. Potamus introduces himself, telling her he sees her as a threat and immediately attacks her. Komoko realizes his ability lowers her stats, but her already active skills and stat boosts still work. She struggles against Potamus, but manages to rip his skin, revealing he is a robot underneath. She remembers this kind of technology brought the world to the edge of doom and realizes she needs to defeat him for the good of the world. Turning his arm into a laser gun, Potamus starts shooting at Komoko and manages to cut her head off. However, Komoko still has her spider head, so she continues fighting. He realizes she can still use her skills inside of Potamus' body, so she breaks his gun arm from the inside. Suddenly, Ariel drops through the ceiling, acting flamboyantly like Komoko would. She asks Potamus what he is doing there, and when he won't tell her, she cuts his head off. Ariel approaches Komoko and instead of attacking her, proposes to make peace with her. She realizes she can't kill Komoko, and since their souls are merged, she doesn't even have the desire to kill her anymore. Komoko happily accepts her proposal. In a facility full of robotic bodies, Potamus awakens as one of them, swearing he will remember Komoko. While they're walking together, Ariel asks Komoko, Marizofis, and Sofiev to join her in her fight against Potamus. Realizing she won't be able to save the world if she doesn't defeat Potamus, Komoko agrees to join Ariel. Marizofis also agrees to join Ariel and go to the demon realm with her since he and Sofia will be safer there. Ariel proclaims that they will become the